Welcome to Whining About Books, where I review a good book with a stiff drink in my hand. Tonight's book will be The Center by Aisha Manazir Siddiqui. I wanted to review this book because it was spooky season. And I know Halloween has come and gone, and so have a few other major holidays. But I wanted to get this review done. As you can see, I'm extremely late with getting this review out, but let's get into why I chose this book. I read that this book is a bit of horror, a bit of thriller, and a good amount of mystery. Seeing that Halloween is all about mystery and horror, I didn't want to skip out on the festivities. I'm ready to dive in, so grab your book if you have it, and grab your drink because I know you got it, and let's whine about books. The Center was written by Aisha Manazir Siddiqui and was published in 2023. She has published short stories, reviews, translations, essays, monologues, and poetry. She has also written for radio and the stage. Aisha is from Karachi and lives in London. Tonight's drink of the evening is an old fashioned. I chose this drink because, as you will see very soon, our main character has a dislike and distaste for any old fashioned and out of date thinking. Yet, despite all of her support for more progressive ideals, she can't help but to trip over her own words by giving into the same old fashioned actions that she claims everyone else lives by. Now, I love myself a good old fashioned. I've been a lover of whiskey for a few years now and enjoy the smoky flavor of a good bourbon. Pair that with some bitters, a cherry, and a good piece of orange peel, and you have yourself a drink you can never get sick of. Oh, that is lovely. Now, as I said before, I chose this book because I was promised horror, thrill, suspense, and mystery. And boy, oh boy, did this book fall flat on its face. Horror is not the type of genre that I typically pick out, so I was actually pretty excited to dive into this story. I'm a person who is easily scared. I do not enjoy being afraid. My thoughts tend to run away with the wildest of ideas when it comes to the fear category. Now, my husband says it's because I'm a scaredy cat. I like to say that it is self-preservation. But no matter how ridiculous, I will concoct the worst of scenarios and be deathly afraid of every single one. So naturally, I suspected that I would be doing the same with this story. Let's get into why that was never the case while I read this book. The center focuses on the main character, Anissa. She is a translator who works on Bollywood films and has dreams of being a big time translator for great works of literature. Anissa feels stuck in her life, feeling as if she is not moving forward, and that her lack of fluency in more notable languages is what is holding her back. This brings us to her boyfriend, Adam, and we will get into their relationship soon. Now, Adam is fluent in multiple languages, fluent as in like a native speaker. He knows Russian, Mandarin, French, Spanish, and along with some others. It isn't until Adam learns Anissa's mother tongue, which is Urdu, and I hope I'm saying that right, that she becomes suspicious of how he gains his knowledge. He gained his new skill of speaking Urdu in only a matter of days, and Anissa was not so keen to let this situation go. That is when Adam tells her about the center. Now, the center is a place where for 20 grand, you can become fluent in any language in a matter of 10 days. It guarantees native fluency. The only catch is that you remain virtually isolated, not being allowed to speak to anyone except for your mentor, guide person. And if you find yourself a guest at this fine establishment, you are cut off from the outside world, given time to meditate and do some form of yoga, stretching exercise type, and then you're served what one can only classify as a 5-star meal and spend many hours a day listening to someone speaking the language of your choice. My choice language is this old fashioned. Now, as I get into this review, I want to be honest and let you all know that it may seem more like a bashing than one full of praise. My disappointment with this story began about halfway through the first chapter. It started off well enough. The main character is doing some self reflection, and we are introduced to her best friend, Naima. Not long after that, we are pushed into the main character's issues with race, privilege, gender, and sex. Anisa is a Pakistani woman living in London and, valid or not, looks for any instance and opportunity to point out everyone's shortcomings when it comes to these categories. Now, Anissa ends up falling for a guy named Adam, who is as white as can be, and proceeds to get into a relationship with him, even though she has these thoughts and beliefs that he is some privileged man who does not and will never understand a woman like her. Yet, she continues to date him and make him feel bad for things he does not fully have control over. No, Adam is not perfect, and I will be the first to admit that. But because the point of view of this book is from that of Anissa, I find it easier to critique her because we are given an inside look into how she feels about the situations she encounters. She plays on the tropes of today, thinking that because she is a minority race, she is being held back and pinned down by the patriarchy. She calls Adam out for being white, being a man, pressuring him about not wanting to have sex with her when he is clearly uncomfortable and insecure about certain issues, and also him having success in a field that she dreams of one day being able to work in, and all because he is white and male. Now, don't get me wrong, I see where this argument may come into play, but the main character uses gender, skin color, and possible hidden prejudices as the excuse for nearly every interaction she has. And I found it odd that she would continue to date this man while secretly hating him for who he is. I'll tell you what, come to find out, as the story develops, Adam grew up poor while our main character grew up rich. She glosses over this point and almost paints it as irrelevant. She criticizes the cold and gloomy country that she lives in, which is London, England. The country is England, the city London, while missing and still condemning her homeland of Pakistan. Her criticisms were not just reserved for white males, but extended to other Indians and Pakistanis, as well as people who share her Muslim faith, and her best friend, Naima. Her bestie ended up falling in love and getting married, though the legitimacy of the love was questionable. Anissa feels that her friend is dimming her light for a man and struggles to reconcile Naima's decision to marry. Anissa and Naima spend some of their time bashing men and discussing what it means to be a woman in a man's world. And Anissa cannot get over the fact that Naima is getting married to the type of guy they would talk crap about. Anissa is full of contradictions, pointing out the flaws in others while ignoring or downplaying her own. Now, I'm not saying that these two emotions cannot cohabitate. What I am saying is that as the story goes on, I came to find out that nothing was good enough for this woman, even when she ended up having everything that she wanted. In the end, she became a very recognized book translator. She received accolades, she was going to discussions and signing autographs, and still she found an issue with it. This main character was never satisfied and ended up succumbing to the very things that she accused others of doing. But perhaps that is what the writer wanted. It was a complexity that I struggled to enjoy. I continued to pick apart certain parts of this book, analyzing and reanalyzing and reanalyzing and coming up with the same conclusion. I did not like it. Didn't like it. Loving this though. While Anissa is a resident of the center, she meets her guide, Sheba. Beyond these major themes of being a wealthy female minority in a harsh world, we are given the mystery of how one obtains the skills to speak any language like that of a native speaker. Now, when I read mystery, thriller, horror type books, I do my best not to speculate so that I can keep the mystery until it is revealed. If I figure things out too quickly or too soon, then my enjoyment goes out the window. With that being said, if I get to the end of the book and the truth that is revealed is lackluster or just downright dumb, I get frustrated and feel that I have wasted my time. Luckily, the twist that came with this book was a good one. The way that these learners gain their newfound knowledge lies in the food that they eat at the center. The learners spend most of their hours listening to a speaker speak in their native language. During their stay, as mentioned before, they get to spend time meditating and doing yoga, speaking with their mentor guide person, and eating delicious food. Now, the book touched on how good the food was, and as I was reading, I thought to myself, the quality of food doesn't seem like something the writer would hang their hat on given the nature of the book. But boy, was the key to gaining the language knowledge hidden in the contents of the food. Y'all, the people at the center had them folks eating humans, like full on cannibalism. The way the technology worked is they would listen to the speaker, and at every meal, they would be eating that particular speaker. The way I gagged, my lord. Ugh, gotta wash it down. Now, as much as this revelation had me in shambles, it had our main character up in arms. So much so that she had to retaliate by, get this, guys, joining in on the operation. Let me be clear when I say I cannot, by any stretch of the imagination, stand this girl Anissa. Now, she got brought in on the scam, and yes, I say scam because you got these folks paying 20 grand to be cannibals. Anyway, she decided to get herself in on the scam after this all came to light. And let me backtrack for a second. While Anissa is a resident of the center, she meets her guide, who also happens to be the woman who runs the Language Institute. Now, Sheba is quite likable until you learn of her twisted mindset for the whole operation. They become quite good friends, sharing in some moments that would lead one to think they would be more than friends. But I digress. Anissa begins to question the goings on at the center, and because of the friendship they have formed, the guide invites Anissa to her home in Pakistan with the promise that she will finally be told how the language learning works. Anissa is filled with all the wonderment of a tourist, that which she criticized Adam for when he visited Anissa's home um, uh, earlier in the book. Now, while in Pakistan, Anissa meets Sheba's father, Arjun, who is one of the co-founders of the center. This already established group keeps secret cannibalism close to their chest until they are sure that Anissa is on their side of things. Now, Anissa finds her time with Sheba's family enjoyable until the reveal of what goes on at the center. Our main character finds herself in a little will they, won't they with Sheba's father. He flirts with her and spends a few evenings with her, just talking and getting to know one another. All of Anissa's gripes about the patriarchy and putting down her best friend for getting married, she crawls into the very bowels that she criticizes other women for, traipsing that she criticizes other women for traipsing through, and gives a particular service to Sheba's father. From there, she sort of spirals out of control, getting drunk and saying some less than nice things about Sheba, her father, and the institution that was created. Now, as the trip comes to a close, Anissa is faced with how to move forward in numerous ways. Her friendship with Naima, her friendship with Sheba, and the decision on whether or not to involve herself further with the goings on at the center. Naima is her longest and closest friend. She reconciled that she would rather have Naima in her life than not. She brings herself to support her friend and be there for her, whether she agrees with her marriage or not. She plasters on a happy face for the blushing bride and secretly promises to be there for her if and when the marriage implodes. Things with Sheba were left up in the air until we found out that Anissa invited Sheba to Naima's wedding. Sheba shows up toward the end of the festivities and they have a discussion. Now, I was fully prepared for Anissa to drop this friendship, but knowing how the story gives its little twists and turns, I did not plan for such an ending. For all of Anissa's preaching on right versus wrong, good versus bad, ethical versus unethical, she compromises her beliefs when it comes to her best interests. every single time. And one would think that this compromising would get her to humbly dismantle from her high horse. But it doesn't. Anissa and Sheba forgive one another and patch up the fractures in the foundations of their friendship. And Anissa makes the decision to join Sheba at the center. She casts aside any doubts that she held and looked toward the future promise that she and Sheba could introduce the world to this grand and new technology while also changing the toxic boys club environment that Sheba's father and his friends established when starting and running the center. As I said in the beginning, this book is not one that I enjoyed or that I was excited to review. The promise of horror was unfulfilled. The joy of reading was snatched from my clutches by a story that, in my personal opinion, was dull and left me wanting more. The good thing about this book, which I feel ups its appeal, is that it left and still leaves me thinking. Are most of my thoughts filled with a smoking anger? Yes. But is that anger smothered when I think back on the few good bits that I enjoyed? No. All in all, I got through this book. That is what I can say about it. I probably would never recommend this book to anyone unless they ask for a recommendation that has certain specifics. That does not mean that this author does not have an audience that would enjoy her writing. I just so happen to not be a part of that audience. If this author came out with another book, I do think that I would possibly check it out at the library, and that would be mainly to see if it was just this particular book I didn't enjoy or if it was the author herself. That said, I rate this book 2 out of 5 stars and this old-fashioned 11 out of 10 on a numerical scale. Please like this video and comment down below whether you agree or disagree with my assessment. Thank you for joining me as I reviewed The Center by Aisha Manazir Siddiqui. Join me next time as I whine about books. That is good. That is good. I didn't finish the one from yesterday, but I'm gonna finish this one, I think, maybe. Thorin, you wanna come say hi to the people? Come say hi to the people, Papa. Yeah, that's a good boy. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Hi, Bubba. Yeah, he was sleeping. Say, but I wake up for pets. I wake up for the scratches. Yes. Oh, you're such a good boy.